part 13 of the 6-cycle oddball engine build series. In this video we are going to be making the valves and a bunch of springs. Of course I'm not going to show you making about a dozen springs, but just wanted to point out that it's not as easy as it looks. I took a lot of inspiration from Blondie Hacks here on YouTube. She does a really great job of basically everything that she puts out to the public, and I'm forever grateful for people like her who are willing to share what they know to anyone who's willing to watch. So we made a bunch of springs to get some that are usable. As you can see, that is a small handful of springs. However, we got usable valve springs on our engine. The intake valve spring is like 15 thousandths, and I forget what I used for the bottom 25 thousandths wire. They work well, the valves seal well. Overall, smashing success. Could not be happier with the outcome, and hopefully you enjoy the video and could learn something about spring making. I would encourage you to check out Blondie Hack's video. I will try and put a link to it down in the description of this video. I'll try and remember to do it. No promises, but Quinn does a fantastic job. So hopefully you like what you're seeing. Hopefully you're enjoying my videos. I'm having a great time making them. Really enjoying doing this. And I'd love it if you subscribed, hit the notification bell, and came along for the rest of the journey. We're getting close now. Only a few more videos, and we're going to see this sucker run. Or, at least hopefully. Alright, so the first thing we need to do with this is drill a hole past where we're going to part it off, which is maybe 200-300 thousandths. Hit that with a center drill, and then we're going to use a 7/64 drill. Alright, so that's 350 thousandths deep, which is plenty. Now all we need to do is part this baby off. Probably something about right there will be good. Well, I tried to catch it, but I didn't get it. Now we need to take a piece of 1/8 inch rod here. This is just stainless steel, like the K&S metal stuff from the hardware store. But it's accurate enough for a valve stem. Start out by facing that off. Probably need about that much to get into the screw. It's actually a little bit looser than I wish it was. I'm going to redo that. This needs to be a little bit loose for the silver solder to get in there, but not so loose that it's got a lot of wiggle room to it. see if that fits. I feel like that should. It measures like it should. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now let's go over to the vise and silver solder this bad boy. Alright, so set up over here to do some silver soldering. We need about that much flux. Smear some of that inside the hole of the valve and then push this together. Doesn't take much flux and it doesn't take much solder to silver solder. Now I'm going to nip off a piece of silver solder. And by a piece, I mean an almost microscopic amount. You can barely even see that in my hand. It might be the size of 1/3 grain of rice. Probably something close to that. And we're going to solder it. Absolutely beautiful. Probably won't be able to see super good, but the silver solder ran down the sides, made a nice little fillet inside of the hole, and that is it. That's our valve. Got this chucked back up in the lathe. We have to turn the outer diameter down a bit. The plans call for it to be a 5/16 diameter. I can make it a little bit bigger than that and have plenty of clearance. And then we got to cut the taper on the back side and blend it right in here. I guess I just totally blocked that, but blend it right in here to our shaft for our valve. Kind of blend that together. So overall, this is really easy to do. Like I said, the plans call for a 5/16 diameter here, but it doesn't need to be like bang on to that for any reason. Take about 5/1000ths more off that and we're going to be good enough. Alright, now we need to turn the taper on the back side, like I said. And this is back and forth with the compound. I just wanted to point out, I'm taking really light cuts on this For one, I'm using a parting blade as a turning tool, which is not a great idea to start with. And for two, this is a good bit of stick out, and if this thing grabs, it'll just bend that valve shaft, and that'll be the end of it. It'll be ruined. So I'm taking like 2.5, 3 thou cuts at a time, which is probably way too light, but I want to make sure that I don't ruin it. Not too shabby. I'm going to take a facing cut off the front just to pretty it up a little. No purpose whatsoever other than looks. Alright, now the last time what I did when I made one was stuck this out here real far, and I used sandpaper to clean it up, so I'm going to do that same thing again. Going to clean this shaft up with some sandpaper, just get rid of any amount of flux that might be on there, and I'll show you how it fits in the engine. So this is why this is such a clever design. As you can see, the valve fits in there quite nicely, slides very free, and we have to twist this valve to lap the seat. Well, Mr. Joe, in all of his awesome wisdom that he's willing to share, came up with this idea. So with this idea, you can put an Allen wrench in there and spin this Allen wrench to lap that valve. So I'm going to go clamp this in the vise and show you what that looks like. We'll kind of get a before and after. So it's really hard to get a camera to focus much on that, but you can faintly see a line where, from me just twisting it, has created a little bit of a line around the valve. Once we're set up in the vise, we'll have a nice dark line where this is literally lapped to that valve, creating the seat. So this is a very, very easy process with this system that Mr. Joe came up with. I struggled like crazy on my last engine to get these valves lapped in so that they sealed like basically at all. I couldn't get them to want to seal for nothing to start out, and this just works a treat. It's like an instant lap. I only know because I already did the exhaust valve, so I was playing around with it to start with. And all we're going to do, this is I don't know, some kind of valve grinding paste off of Amazon. It was pretty cheap. We need to put a little bit on the valve. Try not to get any on the stem, because valve grinding compound down in there would loosen up the fit, and we don't want that to be the case. And then we're going to stuff this back into our valve block or guide or whatever you want to call this. The other one probably took about 30 seconds to a minute, and it was lapped beautifully. Alright, let me wipe this off real quick. There you go. So you can see that dark ring all the way around the valve. We're talking about the ring down here where my fingernail is. That is what it just lapped to seal into that valve chamber. So that 45-degree chamfer that we cut on there before should now perfectly match this and be very sealed up. My exhaust valve, you can see it in there. What I did was put my air blow gun in the top, and I held on my finger like this, and I could hold back like 80 psi with this. So I think we got a really nice lap on these parts, and we'll be good to go. So the unfortunate part of these valves is you don't really know how good they are until you're kind of like in the final stages, but if need be, it's really easy to relap this now that we have that hex in the end from that screw. Like I said, this was an awesome idea. Mr. Joe shares so much great information, and honestly, if you're an engine builder and you're not following him, you probably should. He has a lot of awesome ideas. But that is our valve. This is the intake valve down here. We need to make the intake piece for this. Alright, so the valves won't be valves without the springs. So next thing we're going to do is try and make the springs. So the exhaust valve, it says to use 22 thousandths music wire. I have 25 thousandths music wire, and it's supposed to be 10 turns approximately with a 9/32 diameter. So none of that is super critical. I mean, realistically, this is a very slow speed engine, so we just need to make springs. Most commercial springs start with 2 or 3 turns at the end that are like straight, and then it starts to cut as if like you're cutting threads. So we're going to try and achieve just exactly that. Let me show you my setup and how it works. Over here on the lathe I have a mandrel. This is about 200 thousandths more or less. And let me turn it so you can see. It's got a little tiny hole in it for the music wire to slide into. And as you can see, I put a big piece of orange tape because we need about 10 turns. So we need to count how many times the chuck goes around. I have my change gears over here on the back of my lathe set up for 10 TPI or 10 turns per inch. So that should give us approximately 10 turns on the spring. Then this is just a cut off piece of angle iron with a hole drilled in it, and we're going to feed the wire through this and put it into the hole in that mandrel. And then use a trusty pair of vice grips to snap on right here and hold a ton of tension on that wire. It needs to be a lot of tension because you need it to wind really tightly onto this mandrel. Otherwise, it's just going to spring open whenever you're done, and it's not going to be a spring. So you need like a lot of tension on the vice grips, a deceptively large amount of tension. I kind of think this mandrel and piece of like angle setup came from Blondie Hacks. Quinn also has some awesome YouTube content, literally hundreds of videos, all of which are very high quality and super well done. So if you've never checked out her channel, that's Blondie Hacks. I'll try and remember to put a link to her channel down below as well. And I'm pretty sure that's where this idea came from, or this is at least a loose interpretation of what she had to offer. And it works pretty darn well. It's kind of tedious, and you're probably going to make some mistakes along the way, but you know, music wire is pretty cheap. So like I said, this is going to be 25 thousandths music wire. And I buy it on a quarter-pound spool like this, and you need a lot more than you think you need. I have probably 3 feet or more pulled off of that roll right now to make this work. I'm going to try and get you like that right down onto the shot here. This isn't going to happen real fast, so you should be able to see what's going on as we go here. So what I'm going to do is feed the wire through this into the hole in our mandrel. And then I'm going to use my finger and bend that really hard. And then, sorry, I know I'm blocking the shot, but I'm going to take a pair of pliers and kind of roll that bend so it's bent really tight, because it's going to try and pull out of there. We'll see if that is enough to make this work. Now,
wind this in a bit and get our vice grip set up here. And then we need to wind back this way. Like I said, most commercial springs start out with a turn or two that's straight to start out with. I think the wire's going to pop out. Yep, this is the hardest part of all of this, is getting that darn wire to stay in the mandrel. Or at least the hardest part for me. I don't know what to do differently. I feel like this is like the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. But we shall get it. Maybe we'll try and bend it so that it locks in like that. Okay, let's try this again. And like I said, those vice grips are on there pretty darn tight, and that seems to really be the key. Alright, get our flat wraps here. Okay, see if my half nut wants to engage right there. Okay, here goes nothing. We need 10 turns. And now our flat wraps. Alright, there's a spring. Here comes how good did we do. I don't think the vice grips were quite tight enough. Let's see once we get this side cut what it looks like. So there's the spring. I think we can do better than that. Let's give that a try again. I think this time we need to have the vice grips tighter. Like I said earlier, music wire is pretty darn cheap, so might as well try and make it as nice as we can. So again, you feed this in the hole. Get that into the hole in the mandrel. Well, I guess you get the idea. It's a lot more difficult than it looks. Vice grips were obviously a little bit too tight that time. Guess you could say I got a little greedy with it. That seems to be working this time. So here we go. Maybe the like 45th time as the charm. Let's see. Well, that's not terrible. This would be the exhaust spring. I kind of think that'll work. Need to trim off the ends and give it a try. There you go. That's how you make springs. It's not as easy as it looks.